Hi everyone, this is Lori Meadows, and I'm doing my presentation on Patagonia. This is kind of the table of contents. I found this really cute picture of how they kind of started out, just a surfer guy, some surfer dudes. But this is a corporate social responsibility business. Patagonia Inc. is an American retailer of outdoor clothing. It was founded by Yvonne in 1973 and is based in Ventura, California. Patagonia operates stores in over 10 countries globally, as well as factories in 16 countries. The issue here is apparel workers are among the lowest paid employees in the world. Much of the clothing industry has lax social standards that can lead to unsafe working conditions, long hours, low pay, and job discrimination for the workers who are predominantly women. The continual demand for fast fashion exacerbates this problem every day. Um, the innovation here is basically to minimize harm while increasing positive benefit to apparel employees. You know, when you think of places like Fashion Nova or Shein, they're constantly putting out new works weekly. And a lot of sweatshops that are happening can't understand why. Well, they understand that if they don't do business, the business goes somewhere else. So let's get into that. Patagonia measures innovation through these types of successes. What's really cool is that the industry, both socially and environmentally, have rigorous standards set now, and it's continuing. I mean, it's innovation, it never stops, right? They create a bunch of programs that support and sustain farmers, and fair trade program, we'll talk a little bit more about that, and elimination of fees. I didn't realize this myself, but workers usually have to pay a lot of money just to be able to hold a job. So, what is the social impact? In the previous slide, you see the ways Patagonia is trying to mitigate working conditions in the apparel industry that support families in poor working conditions. Earlier in this semester, we learned of wicked problems. Are sweatshops difficult or impossible to solve directly? I say yes, and here's why. If employment is either working on a farm or working within the industrial sector, there's not much room for imagination when it comes to job hunting. Working conditions are atrocious, but poverty does not lend many options to the people in Jakarta. In fact, rising poverty is indicative of more being pushed into child labor. Now, that's a separate issue entirely, but it does highlight the wicked problem of labor amongst the poor. Um, I really thought this was cool. This was from our own ratings, I think week 3. But Horst Riddle said, a solution found will only suffice for a wicked problem once. Design will change naturally because of the introduction of intervention strategy. He knew that these problems don't go away. And I wanted to highlight something that Patagonia is doing right. If you look in the middle here, there's this little timeline, but in the middle, particularly, um, is super cool. Um, the foreign migrant programs really caught the attention of the CSR, and it led to the social responsibility program in 2011. The initiative is ongoing to limit the fees that cost up to $7,000 for them to just be hired on and work in sweatshops across the world. You're like, why would anyone do that? Well, there's lots of these shops and these factories. They just don't have the manpower for people to work in the area, so they hire out and they use these third parties, kind of like a temp agency, right? But it doesn't work, and there's a lot of greed, and it's really sad. So in this way, this was a huge strength for Patagonia. And if you look right before that, they were part of this founding of the Fair Labor Association. And this basically, the FLA is founded to protect workers' labor rights around the world entirely. That's great. And if you look at the end here, there's just a snippet of amazing things that they're doing where it has impacted more than 75,000 workers in 10 countries around the globe. Fair trade is something that can be sewn in because Patagonia doesn't have their own factories. It's kind of hard to mitigate what's happening, right? But they do get to choose where they spend their money and what factories they want to work with. And Patagonia has the propriety to do that. And so they right now are the largest retailer who has that little fair trade label sewn into each of their garments, which is pretty cool. So let's talk about recommendations. And I guess I should say previously, because they don't have their own factories, that is a major struggle for what's going on. But there are more successes. They've been around for a long time. So I wanted to talk about my recommendations. Patagonia has worked hard to make sure their carbon footprint and social innovations are attracting the right response to the world. But there's always room for improvement, right? There are only 2 people who oversee migrant worker audits. One lives in Cali and the other in Taiwan. To have a process that started 12 years ago, only to be headed up by 2 individuals, seems a bit stretched. These 2 oversee supply chain standards, training employees who supply as well, responsible recruitment in Taiwan, and partnership exploration for continued innovation. Yes, they have teams working with them, but a lot of it is still new territory. So thank you for going through this with me. I'm not the greatest presenter with business, but I will say Patagonia is amazing. They're doing right by social standards, and it's not about a true or false right. It's about, is this right or is this wrong? Here are some of my sources, and I hope you enjoyed.